I now call to order the regular meeting of the Leominster Conservation Commission for November 14th, 2017. We're going to start with some continued hearings. Our first is pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended. There will be a public hearing. Consider a notice of intent by Dominic Marabello for the construction of a 30 by 30 addition to a single-family home. Some work is proposed within a wetland resource area. The address is 35 Day Street, map 577, lot 27A, and it's DEP file number 1991059. Is there someone here representing the applicant?
We're still waiting on our engineer. Do you mind if we take another order?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. It's not our fault.
That's all right. No, that's fine. All right, we'll move on to the second continued hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended. There'll be a public meeting, consider an RDA by Highland Manor Realty Trust regarding the determination of a potential wetland area, address 826 West Street, map 514, lot 8. Is there a DEP file number for this, Mark?
No, it's a determination.
Oh, there's a determination one.
We have a request from the applicant to continue this meeting.
Okay. When is the next meeting?
December 12th.
December 12th. Okay. We don't need to vote on that, do we?
If the commission wants to continue it, then
Yeah, all right. Do I have a motion to continue this hearing to our December 12th meeting?
Before we have a motion,
Yes.
it's going to be getting kind of late to agree on a potential wetland area if we continue this much longer. Depending on the weather. I mean, it's gone from summer to winter real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a reason for the delay?
they're waiting on the wetland flags that are out in the field to be plotted on the plan set.
So the flags are in the field.
That's correct. I reviewed these flags earlier in the year, early this spring.
Is there any area of that do you think would be subject to discussion?
Oh,
or
definitely,
dispute?
absolutely. Yeah.
So if we wait a lot longer, we're going to have a hard time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also personally think that an ANRAD should be filed for this to properly review the flags. Seeing as how this is, just the request has been continued this long.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
this has
commission.
been on the agenda for a while.
Right.
That's all. I was just concerned about the time.
Any other issues?
Just before we vote,
Yes.
is this something that we've discussed? Because I don't know if I should abstain from voting. I don't recall if I was.
We had a brief discussion. Gee, I forget.
Yeah, I believe that I'm going to have to abstain.
Yeah, just abstain.
It was 2 meetings back.
Yeah, just about, maybe a couple more than that.
Yeah, more than that.
Right.
All right. Do I have a motion to continue?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we continue this request for determination of applicability for 826 West Street, continued to the December 12th meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Against? Okay. Abstain?
Abstain.
All right, we'll continue that. Our next continued hearing, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 is amended, to be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by CRX Realty Trust regarding the construction of a condominium and associated parking and stormwater management within a 100-foot buffer zone of a wetland. Address 96 Exchange Street, map 111, lot 6. Is there someone representing the applicant?
Pat Frizzelli for the applicant. Does everyone have a smaller version of this? If not, I have one
Mhm.
extra copy.
This is in a bad spot. Yeah. This is a road train or something, right?
Just pull down. At the last meeting, to bring everybody up to speed, we had a few questions which you'll see on your smaller versions. One was there, I'll start at the entrance and work back. There was a question about a parking space that was on Exchange Street, which if you look in your layout plan now, in those plans, that has been moved off of Exchange into the project. And it's also shown as a handicap space. Let's see. Yeah, it's on page 3 of 8, which is layout plan, this is also the layout plan, just this one wasn't updated, all the smaller ones were. And the copy of Marco was, and the copy of the notice of intent response to DEP shows what you have in your hands. Following that, the dumpster was at one point towards the retention basin, so it's been moved internally into the site. You'll see it actually about a third of the way in. The dumpster's here now instead of by the retention basin. The next issue was snow storage, and what we propose is that anything over a 4-inch storm gets physically removed off the site. Usually 2-3 inches is, you can plow and depending on how crazy our winters get, so. But usually once you're starting to get into 4 and more inches, you want to start removing it anyway because it's just going to turn into a mountain. And then pretty much there was some question about drainage, and the grades clearly show that it goes into the retention basin as planned. And then I had spoken to one of the abutters, and there was a question about the wall back here. And that is part of what the plans was given to the planning board, is there will be a white vinyl fence along this entire back property line. And the neighbor's concern will be addressed as this gets graded. There's a stone wall back here. As this gets finished off in the project, that will be, his backyard will be restored, and there'll be a fence along this property line. Then the only other issue was, and you should have in your packet a letter from the planning board, there was a question whether there were 16 or 18 units. And the planning board confirms that there are in fact 18 units. Those were all the issues brought up that I think we will continue forward to respond to and to correct on the plan, unless there's any issues or questions.
Just one question. One of the concerns, and you addressed the snow storage, but this area here, in the past, I mean, if we get a lot of snow and it gets pushed this way, I know there's some trees there. That's about 30 feet to the wetland. Is there in the past, we've just asked for like no snow storage, or no.
Yeah, I think whatever the commission has in its best interest. Again, at some point, because of this way it's constructed, the last thing you want to do is for these tenants is to let too much accumulation occur. which is why we kind of figured out historically, once you get to 3 inches, 4 inches, you start thinking about putting it obviously somewhere else and trying to just, have the plows pushing it up. So,
Yeah, that's just a logical place to put it,
yeah,
you know.
it's a straight shot.
Just a straight shot, you
yeah.
just push, right?
Because you're not gonna push it to Exchange Street, so that's the normal place to push it. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think obviously the proponent would have any objection to that being, a limited area, or the fact that, plus you're not gonna wanna kill whatever vegetation's here, you start plowing up against that, sooner or later, all you're doing is destroying what you put in.
Are you asking for some signage? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think signage and maybe just something on the plan to denote like this area, so that, it's not right now, it's, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and, suddenly.
Again, I'm not opposed to,
Okay.
whatever you guys have in
Yeah,
mind.
that would be-
I don't think there's any opposition.
Yeah, a lot of times, I think in the past, they've put up like, something at the end, like a little, like wooden.
Like a barricade.
Yeah. And then on there, we would just put like we've done it in the past, I don't know if Marco has the verbiage,
I'm
but it
sure
was
Mark
probably
will
just.
come up with something.
Yeah, I'll jot something down.
Okay. Just a generic sign, no.
Yeah,
through-
yeah. And I think a small, usually it's just 2 barrels with a couple wood things, which,
Yeah.
and it doesn't look bad. It actually looks aesthetically pleasing, and just also lets people not necessarily drive into the open space, or in case someone decides they want to try to take a 4-wheeler through there.
Or has too much wine?
Yeah, and the pavement here.
But thank you for addressing that in the dumpster. That was
No
one of my
problem.
concerns. Thank you.
That was an easy one.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Yes?
One of the other concerns we had was the plantings within the infiltration basin area. Those are still showing up on sheet 6 here.
Oh, it looks like they're.
Oh, those 2 that are shown?
Yeah.
I don't know why he didn't move those, to be honest with you.
And you should really have the one removed that sits just above where it says emergency spillway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want to make that a condition, that's certainly not a problem.
And I believe we also asked that all of the plans be stamped and signed, and it looks like now none of them are.
I came in late last meeting, otherwise I would have had a wet stamp on these. I certainly can accomplish that also. I got these plans to Marco today, they just literally got finished and I brought them straight here, so that is certainly not a problem.
So you just got these today, Marco?
Correct, yeah.
Have you reviewed them?
Very quickly. I reviewed them with Pat when he gave them to me. Basically just went over the dumpster pad and the parking spot change.
Yeah, the planning board had sent him a letter earlier in the week, so we already knew about that.
So you've really only given it a cursory review at this point, right?
First, yep.
Any other questions or comments?
Where's the snow in excess of 4 inches? Where does that get trucked to?
Right now, I couldn't tell you where it's, I mean, it'll
But
probably
you've
be
made
by contract.
arrangements. Do you have an ongoing agreement with somebody to take that snow, or?
No, they have multiple properties, I'm not sure who they would contract it with, there's a number of contractors. Also, I know, actually, one of the other parties involved here is buying a snow melter, which is going to be used on multiple properties that they service. So I would assume that either the snow melter will be brought on site, or they will have it trucked off to another property.
Just, this area is not gonna become an accepted city road then, right? This will remain part of like an association?
Right now, it's a condo association. They are shared with me their ultimate goal, but I would assume it will stay an association.
Because, I mean, the city doesn't truck snow away, they only plow snow, so, right. That would kind of be a concern too, if it turns out that this becomes a city way, it's accepted now,
I'm not
Putting
sure
the
the
burden-
city will accept it and with no cul-de-sac. But again,
Right, I just-
can't speak
right,
for-
I don't know enough
Can't speak
about
for the
that.
planning board or the city, but I've not seen them ever, without the ability to go in and turn around. I can't imagine a city plow coming in there
Okay.
and plowing snow.
Where would you envision that snow melter to be located if it were brought on the property?
Oh, well, I would imagine they would bring it in to the end, you just put snow into it and you literally melt it. So it could be in any one of the open parking spaces. I mean, they're pretty efficient, actually. That's why the state uses them now.
Probably go right to the detention basin is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Have you ever seen one of them work, Paul?
No.
It's literally, they dump it in and it just, as fast as they can feed it, water comes out one end, so it's pretty aggressive. So the only thing I can think of is gonna go in that detention basin. Because that's the only thing big enough to handle that much water.
And it'll be frozen.
is that basin sized properly so that it will hold whatever, you know, I'm just thinking a big storm, we don't want that
Yeah.
thing spilling over.
They usually size to a 100-year storm, so I can't, even with all that, you've got all the open space, and then the feeder wetland obviously is much more expansive behind there. So I would tell you that they are aggressive, and if you've ever seen one work, but there's a lot of take-up behind that basin. I can't imagine under even the worst of circumstances. I mean, if you had a foot of snow, I think I'd share the concern, but not at, 3-4 inches.
Well, I'm just thinking if we had like a major storm and, you know, there's enough, I don't know how much it would take to fill that basin, but where does that where's the water gonna go when the basin
Well, it would
is?
go into the basin, and obviously it
Oh,
would
this-
outlet to the open space and certainly some of the wetland. It's no-
Yeah, well, I mean, the spillway would be the first place, right? Would it go, so it's gonna be going right towards the units?
Oh, it won't, no. I
Isn't
don't
that where the
think
spill,
that.
where's
It
the
won't-
spillway then?
Yeah,
I'm
but
sure.
it won't, it would go the other way. It would certainly wouldn't go towards the units. If you look at the grading, it's not gonna go uphill.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, the units are
Spillways
uphill,
at-
okay,
yeah.
gotcha. Oh, then the swale, okay, I see.
Yeah, the emergency spillways at 428.
We just don't wanna see that, necessarily see untreated water going into a
Oh.
wetland, that's my concern. You know, like in a big storm, if that basin was to like fill the capacity and then overflow, you're gonna have water that's just discharging right to a wetland.
You're defeating, the snow melter does not get rid of,
Exacerbates, not.
well, yeah, I mean, because basically they're gonna pick up all the salt and sand from the condos, which over salt and sand anyways,
Possible trash and things.
and they're gonna, so. I personally don't have a problem with them as long as that basin's large enough to handle it,
You're right.
you know,
That was,
that I don't know.
I would say a 4-inch storm, even a 6-inch storm, if that's designed, as I'm told it is, to, a 100-foot storm, it
100-year
wouldn't fill
storm.
that basin.
Yeah, because what's it, about 10 inches
Yeah.
per inch
Yeah.
of water, so.
Yeah.
But a couple-
It would be pretty, it would have
Yeah.
to be like a nor'easter for 4 days.
yeah, well, I'm just thinking if we got like a foot and a half of snow, it's gotta go somewhere. If it all went into the basin,
Yeah, but if we're, basically, that's what I'm saying. One, you wouldn't wait till there was a foot and a half of snow to use a snow melter, first of all.
Oh, okay, it would-
You would get like in at 3 or 4 inches because you would not want exactly what the chairman's described. I mean, if you've ever seen what Boston does, they take it to a large yard and they bring in 10 wheelers full of this stuff and turn it into water, which then doesn't take too long to freeze because it's usually 28 degrees while they're doing this. But Yeah, I don't envision that here. And plus, this isn't a snow melter like the city of Boston would have. This is
Yeah.
going to be
Right.
something more conducive to 4 or 6 inches of snow than 4 to 6 feet of snow.
I think if the basin's designed for a 100-year storm, it should be able to support it.
Yeah, if we just ask that it doesn't
Anything.
get filled beyond,
Yeah, it can't be
Capacity.
filled capacity.
I don't know the exact how to word that, but I mean,
Well, I mean, the other option is we can just remove it from the site.
Right.
yeah, I mean, if it's, I don't see a problem with it if the basin can, if it can, if it
It
can.
wouldn't be, to be quite honest, it wouldn't be to the performance benefit to have it overflow, number one. Two, you're gonna create a whole nother situation for the tenants if it goes anywhere but where it's supposed to go, because you're gonna get icing, and especially if you're plowing and doing any removal, the last thing you wanna create is a skating rink at that end of this development to access the snow that's being removed.
Marco, do we have the H&H for this?
H&H.
Hydrologic counts?
Yeah, that's in the stormwater.
Can we look at those while we're here?
Sure.
Thank you.
Can I ask another question while Marco was out of
Yes.
the room?
Yeah.
Can we go back to the parking that I asked about at the last meeting? I see 18 spaces on the plan, and I know we're back to 18 units. Does each one of these units have a garage underneath it?
Undercar. There's a dotted line inside.
On unit number 3, it says 2 garage spaces TYP. Is that typical? Is that TYP?
On unit 3?
On unit
On
3.
unit into
Two-car space is typical.
So is that typical for each unit? There's a 2-car garage on the first floor?
That's what it appears. I've not been involved with the design of the units, but I would tell you that that's what that infers, that each one of these units has a garage parking underneath.
For 2 cars.
Well, my concern was that there wasn't enough parking, that the cars would be going down into the wetland area to park, but
Well, they certainly can't access the wetland area to park. They would have to,
well, I meant down at the end, where the dumpster used to be.
well, there's only 3 spaces here.
there are spaces.
Right.
And now we're gonna put up somewhat of a barricade at the end of this road, and there's also landscaping. So I can't imagine someone driving through the landscaping to the open space. And the wetland, if you look at the edge of the wetland, it's actually, that's why I guess I was being a little coy, but, so other than someone with a 4-wheeler, it really shouldn't be any access to either the open space or the wetland area.
So then there is a 2-car garage under each one of these units?
That's, if you look at how this was designed, all these units on the backside are absolutely showing that. 2-car typical.
And would that be also typical for units 15, 16, 17, and 18?
It's not designated that way,
Right.
but I would think they look like the exact same footprint, so I can't imagine why they would be different.
I'm just trying to get a firm handle on the fact that there's enough room for 36 cars. But if I'm looking at the plan, I can't determine that. And then I'd be concerned about, musical chairs or car roulette or whatever you want to call it.
So there are 19 spaces shown outside of the units, plus this parking inside the units.
Which would be plenty if each unit has a 2-car garage.
And that's why these are the exact same footprint if you look. So, again, I wasn't involved with the construction side of this, and the site side of this, and the permit side, but it's clearly showing typical, so these, if you look, these are all the same exact size. I can't imagine why they would have.
Just the way the units are drawn,
It's a bit unclear.
unit 11 through 14, and then 15 through 18, they don't have that dotted line, which
Right.
represents a typical garage. So I'm thinking those don't have a garage.
Well, I would tell you these are all the same exact unit.
But they're drawn differently.
Yeah, the exact, because I'm looking at,
They're different sizes too.
well,
First floor is 446,
Yep, they are.
and one's 436. 436.
It actually doesn't even look like there's,
They just don't look like they're drawn for garage spaces.
Oh, then, yeah, they're not, because if you look at the curb,
the
and
curb
Right
is
there.
there.
Goes
so it
across
doesn't
the
look like
front.
even- Yeah.
Right.
there does appear to be a curving on the units 1
Because that has a
through
clear
16, 1 through 18. Well,
So we're getting an extra,
1, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Won't there be enough spaces then? Some people are gonna have to walk to get to this.
if there is a, two questions.
well, as long as, I mean, if there's curbing, that's gonna keep cars from going beyond the curbing, right? Is it like a granite, is it like a granite curbing, or?
This looks like it's at least, it might be curving on the radiuses, but either way, no one's going to drive over this going to the,
No, so
Correct.
I'm assuming the occupants of units 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 would be having to use these outside parking spaces. And
Yeah,
if there is indeed
if you look,
18 of those,
it looks like these units would in fact be using
those 7 up there.
these.
So that's all they're putting in.
Yeah, so that looks like that would happen there, that looks like that would happen there. These would be here, here, this way, because these all have their own spaces internally, and these would be for these units. Yeah, someone's gonna have to walk over. Absolutely.
Past the snow melter.
Now, after it's been plowed or removed.
Yeah, it's an asphalt berm. You have 18 spots for 8 units.
Yeah, it's there.
Do you want me to open to the public while you're reviewing that?
Yeah, I have some questions, but why don't you?
Okay. Anybody in the audience like to speak on this notice of intent? Second time and third and final time. All right. I'm going to close the public hearing.
No, I have some
Okay.
questions. Just 1 second.
No problem.
Bradley, did you say DPW did review these counts?
Yeah, that's correct.
So and the question, I'm going back to the concerns that other commission members had with can the infiltration basin handle snow melt, things of that nature. And then just looking at the basin design, I wanted to compare that to what was submitted with the calculations. And in the calcs, it's describing a 6-inch vertical orifice grate. So I don't see that in the plan sheet or the detail, if I'm missing it somewhere. So that's handling some of the flow according to this H&H report here.
Grading drainage.
What's that?
That's our bottom elevation. I don't know what's in that report. Yes,
It looks like there's a 6-inch grade
It does.
at the end of the 3 parking spaces closest to the open space.
Well, that's what I'm seeing, that's what I'm saying, I don't know what the bottom elevation is. What they did in the stormwater management plan.
Where is this, Marco?
So the 3 parking spaces along the open space area,
That little square
a little tiny square, I think that's the
That's
6-inch.
that's an inlet, it's not an
Okay.
outlet.
Oh, okay, you're talking outlet?
Oh, maybe it,
right there. It looks like it did, that's what I'm saying, it does look like that is, at least. It's not on that plan.
Discharges into the 4
Line is 53.
It's called catch basin 4. That's what it described it as.
Yep, right there.
Catch basin 4.
Yep.
CP4.
Maybe if you could bring that over.
Yeah, this is shown on, actually, this map.
no, that's something different. That's the inlet to the basin.
All right.
Now, this is, in the calcs, it's showing 2 primary outlet devices, a broad crested rectangular weir and a vertical orifice grate 6-inch. And I don't see where that is on the plan here. The other concern I have, and it looks like at just about every event other than the 2-year event, this pond is designed to overflow basically where it's labeled the emergency spillway. These are elevations all the way before 28. The detail for the basin is showing a berm up to elevation 429. Plan view doesn't show that. I don't see anywhere on plan view where you're going to get that elevation. And my concern there is if that weir is going to be used for primary flow, you really need more freeboard than the 0.2 of a foot that I'm seeing on plan view. You know, I think the foot of freeboard that the detail shows would work, but it's not working on the site plan itself.
You're right, it's clearly 428 at the back edge. And yeah, it's showing it at it is showing it at 428, not 429. On the detail here, which is 8 of 8. They show the detention basin. Can't see this elevation, so I don't know if you can see it. She's still gray. No, you're absolutely correct. Even in the detail on sheet 8, it's just, there's obviously an area between the top rim of the basin and the beginning of the wetland. Clearly there's a foot differential between this as it's drawn and obviously the stormwater. Go back, that back room is at 428, even here. There was some room for expansion, obviously, to create, but it is 428, not 429. So you're absolutely correct. What does look feasible, though, is that there's enough room from the top of the basin to the edge of the wetland without having to scale to satisfy that requirement with the basin as it's currently configured.
What was the elevation along those against 428?
Everything but everything but the 2 year was above 428.
So it's going to go. Yeah, so it's
Now, where's the limit of work to do the basin? Is that, then, I'm just trying to see which plan has the actual limit of work.
the 429, what's that difference?
Oh, here it is. Page, sheet 7.
This is Leominster School. This is actually private.
Okay.
Oh,
So it's the existing condition. Yep.
Yes, you can,
But what is that, like,
even
east?
with the 10 year is above.
Right. If you look based on the current elevations on the existing condition, there's certainly room to expand the basin from what the existing condition is to the edge of the wetland.
You've only got like 6 feet between limit of work though in the wetland, it looks like. What about this empty area here, this big, like, just open area that's not designated as anything? Can it just get shifted that way a little bit, so that you're not,
I mean, you could shift it that way, but I still think you look at, even with the limit of work, from the top rim of the detention basin to the beginning of the edge of wetland, there certainly is, and then the bottom of the basin's at 422.
But, yeah, it looks like there's only 6 feet right now between the limit of work and the wetland. So, I mean, we don't wanna like go into the
No,
wetland to
no,
put
no,
in a
no, and
basin.
that's why I'm looking at, it does look like though you're talking a foot, you have to be in a foot of gradient on the top rim.
A lot of times what they do is they put like an access way around the basin so that if they have to like maintain it.
Yeah, usually it's like a top walking path.
Yeah, but I mean, is this something that can be accessed since it is that close to a wetland? Is it small enough that it can be worked on, you know, like without having to go into that open space or beyond the existing limit of work?
Well, you should be able to access that from these 3 spaces. You should certainly be able to
Yeah.
access it from here where there's a berm, but, you know, no parking, et cetera, which is just a turnaround. So I'm not so worried about the access, but.
No, I'm saying access to, if they had to,
Oh, yeah.
if they had to, like, say they had to work on
it,
maintain it.
Yeah, no, I understand. That's what I'm saying. I think
Yeah.
there's certainly plenty of open access from this limit here,
Okay.
where the curb is. Plus, it's gonna be a curb, so it's gonna limit access regardless. So that, I think, is not, I'm not as concerned about that. I think the answer to that is yes, but I am concerned about the, as Mr. Stone pointed out, that there's this is at 428, and if the stormwater reads at 429, there's a foot of grade change that needs to be incorporated here. I guess my position would be is that I don't see anything that would prevent that from being maintained. Certainly open to your thoughts and suggestions, but it may require, obviously, a realignment of these plantings along this upper edge, but I still don't think it's not, I don't think it's not achievable based on what I'm seeing here on the plan.
Are you talking about going closer to the wetland though, or are you saying within the existing limit of work?
Oh, I'm saying, within the existing limit of work here, I'm not concerned here. What I'm thinking about the 429 is, you've got some larger plantings here. I think we'd still accomplish the same thing without going any closer to the wetland, because we're talking about a foot of grade. You also have a 422 bottom, and, yeah, I mean,
Well, 423 bottom, right? Isn't it?
422, I don't know that.
Because well, it's got a flood zone elevation at
Yeah,
422, so it's got to be
422,
above that.
Correct, 423.4. Yep. So 424 is bottom of the basin.
I think it's going to have to be reworked a little bit. Is this dash line here, the copy line? Right along here.
This line here, There's a dashed line that runs,
Right, I think that's the one.
if we're talking about the same line, that is the property line between these two developments.
Are they different associations? Like, or would they be all fall under one?
I think it's all, my understanding is this was phased. I'm new to this project in the last month or so, but my understanding is this was phased, this was built, and that this is phased, and the dotted line is merely like phase 2, because these are all existing units, and but my understanding, it's the same, CRX is the same, my understanding is just, it's like phase 2, which is why I know when I visited, spoke to the gentleman who's the butter, you know, that's not finished, because part of the completion of phase 2, from my understanding, is that this will all be taken care of, which is the back of his property that I think he was concerned about, and that's, you know, when that's all done and cleaned up, there'll be a fence here, you know, the plantings will all be finished. So that's why my indication to it, it's all one association and basically one developer, just, they could only build so many units, I think, at a time, and that's how this is really kind of going forward.
Title-wise, they are separate parcels though, correct? I mean, that's why the line's shown there. Right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's, they probably were bought as separate
So
parcels from different property owners.
I guess where I'm going is, I could see where Larry's concerns were in terms of access. Typically, you have a 10-foot level area around the entire basin. Here, I think you can get to it around 3 sides, provided you have access, but you do have to go onto that adjoining parcel. It's the same, it's the same owner today, I guess, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be that way in perpetuity. So I think one way you solve the access issue is just drafting up an easement that
You could
allows you to...
deeded right of access.
Right.
Okay, that's a great suggestion. Because there's clearly access here, behind this unit, here, and staying totally away from the wetland, so. And I would think that this is a condo association, it'd probably stay, it wouldn't make sense at this point, once this is finished and developed, the way these kind of flow. I don't know who would buy half of this and not buy the other half. I think they'd either buy the whole, but then you have individual unit owners already anyways, so.
So what are we gonna do about this basin?
You can make it a condition, or we can obviously ask for continuance and come back. Whatever the board's preference is fine with me. I'm not opposed to you.
Comments? I think I'd rather continuance and have them rework it.
I'm not comfortable conditioning that.
Right.
It's a good design component.
Yeah, okay. All right, I think continuance is the way to go.
Okay.
Next meeting will be December 12th. I'll leave the public hearing open. What? I mean, oh no, it's November, it's December 12th.
December.
Yeah.
Sure, and I think the previous meeting, and I think Michael's already had this conversation, I think we talked about a land with that proponent with Highland, and there was no, because I was also trying to get caught up on that project, there was no objection to that also, just for point of order. I was gonna speak, but you were already kind of given the continuance.
And when you get the plans revised, could you please get them to him like a week in advance,
Right.
so that we have the chance to look at it too?
I got them, the minute I got them, he got them, so,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, Mark will tell you, I'm usually, I try to get them, I try to get them for some earlier. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good night.
Excellent. Is your engineer here yet? Yes.
Yeah, Kent, I guess, forwarded everything for his update, whatever you guys had asked,
Okay.
so. Well, I'll do that.
mention which one we're reviewing.
Yes. We're going back to 35 Day Street, map 577, lot 27A, DEP 199-1059.
Can I ask a question even though I can't vote?
Sure.
Okay. One of the questions that whenever there's a project that's close to a wetland like this, a few questions would be, one is, as far as building it, typically whenever we have a project, the builders say they need 6 to 10 feet beyond the edge of the property to maneuver machinery and things like that, to get around, to put materials or whatever. This looks like the building itself is actually against the limit of work, which is on top of a wetland.
I guess it's like a 2 or 3 foot buffer.
Yeah, it's hard to tell with the scale,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, 'cause I know we're away from it. You know. So I mean, I didn't draw this one, I'm not the.
Yeah. And then, and then the other thing is once, the building is over, there's not even enough room for the property owner to mow the lawn without mowing into a wetland. So that's
Well, that's what the
That
fence is
is-
up for.
if it's 2 feet, that's really, that's sort of my comment. We run into this a lot where, it's just over time, the wetland line gets forgotten, as fill gets brought in and things
Because
like that.
he agreed, he redrew whatever you guys had agreed last time, that would be okay. He just wanted the full drawing that you guys asked for, so.
Saying here on the plan, it says the 6-foot stockade fence will be 4 foot off the building foundation. I'm assuming I would read that as
That'd be the way.
maybe a 4 foot.
All right,
I know it looks like it's literally right there.
Right there, yeah.
He's gonna show it on plan view what he's notating it as.
Well, that's what I'm saying, it's kind of.
yeah, I'm looking at this and the limit of work is actually beyond the wetland boundary. If you look at,
Right,
the green line is actually closer to the house than the hay bales.
right.
So, yeah. Okay.
I guess I don't have a problem with the fence if it is truly inside of the wetland and it is 4 feet from the foundation. I think at that point, like you said, you could get a mower back there or even walk.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing, is no one's gonna want a fence up
22 inches
against,
wide.
do you know? It's just tough with the plan, the way it's set up.
Foundation's not showing 4 feet from the wetland on the plan.
Right, that's what I'm saying. What's noted and what's on the plan, I don't know if that's all to scale.
And stockade fences also end up being a wildlife barrier if they're not open at the bottom.
It's a foot open.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
Now, remember the discussion, so this plan, we're not actually impeding into the wetland, but we are doing replication
Right.
in case of, I guess,
Right.
the question, okay.
Is this the only alternative? Is there no other alternative but to put an addition that close to a wetland? Is that a limitation of this property? Where the driveway is?
Yeah, there's no room in the next property line, right here, and the garages are right there. So as we come in, go right there.
guess my comment, at least, I mean, I guess I don't have an issue if when this is all said and done and during construction that the wetland doesn't get disturbed. If it does get disturbed during construction, that becomes a much bigger issue. It could potentially halt the project,
Right.
you know? So,
Well, I'm doing it, so.
you know, I understand your issue of this is what you need and this is where it goes. And I like that, hey, the fence is gonna be there and that's something that we can condition, so it has to stay there. But I just know how construction is.
Now, where is the fill actually taking place on this? I see a wetland, like I don't see anything indicating on here.
There is no, originally, on our original meeting, we discussed that because it is so close to the wetland, that the owners agreed that they would do some replication, even though originally there was supposed to be a little bit of fill
Oh,
and a little bit of replication. So we kind of made a compromise, said, hey, if you can pull it out, it still would replicate. So that's kind of where we sit, if that memory serves me correctly. That's why that's set that way. Like I said, I personally don't have, when it's all said and done, if there is truly 4 feet there, just during construction, you get a backhoe back there and foundation forms and chances of someone digging up wetlands or filling wetlands.
Yeah.
That's
Because don't they have to take the form out, right? I would think that
Yeah,
if you.
I'm actually doing a block foundation, so there's no form on it.
That's my only concern. Is really probably during construction, because I mean, once it's built, fence, I mean, Marco or anyone else can go up there and say, yeah, that's fine, put the fence here and leave it in perpetuity, but that's just my comment.
Well, if I'm looking at the plan, the building corner is a foot at most from the wetland line.
Right.
There isn't 4 feet there.
Right, and that's what makes me, is this just, oh yeah, 1/30 scale.
You want to check with it?
Yeah, I believe you. I don't have my magnifying glass to say, but pretty small.
This is where that road is that's going up to the development that
There's no
was
road.
proposed?
No,
No, it's
this,
the opening where they were doing it was the access road for the project that had 2 entrances. Is that this one?
no,
I think
this is-
it got turned down, I believe. And it was appealed at one point. Is this?
It could have been, but that's like a paper street.
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't know if it's the same area I'm not sure.
It's quite an extent, like, as you can see on the plans,
Yeah.
extensive wetland back
Yeah.
there, so I don't see how any
Okay.
project could have been
Yeah.
proposed back there, but that certainly could have been.
Must be another area I'm thinking of. That's fine. I'm just trying
Yeah,
to place
you're
where.
thinking probably a quarter of a mile up here.
Okay.
Then it's
There is a
developed
development up there.
Okay.
That would be Sawyer Way.
Oh, okay.
Comments, questions? Yes, sir.
But I think there definitely is going to be some, at least some temporary disturbance of the resource area to construct that addition. But that can also always be restored.
Mhm.
You know, quite frequently with utility construction, you have temporary disturbances and you restore it. So I think that the wetland can be, if there's an alteration there, which will happen when they build that addition, that can be restored back in place. That's easily done. The replication area is actually, it's not replication, it's an additional wetland created area.
Right.
So it's really assuming that there is going to be some loss, even though they're not providing that loss,
Right.
that we've got some extra in case that there is. So I'm comfortable with what's shown. I would like to see the fence out of the wetland. I know it's labeled as 4 feet off the foundation. we can tighten that up closer, just so that it's not that far into it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you'll have permanent alteration there.
Right.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Anybody in the audience like to speak? Second time and last time? Any objections to closing the public hearing portion? All right, I declare the public hearing closed. Do you have any recommendations, Mr. Bengrazi?
I want to ask the commission how they would like to proceed with the discussed fence line and such. Is that something that we want reflected on the plans? Or is that something that we would just assume is going to happen with the wetland as a temporary disturbance? The fence line will have to be placed outside that wetland area. And,
After construction? is
correct, yeah. I guess that's what I want to feel out with the commission. If you're okay with an order of conditions on this, that's fine, but I want to know if this is something that you're okay with the plan as shown, or if this is something that has to be readdressed.
The wetland's currently flagged,
It is.
you know that.
It's a very obvious line of where the
Line.
wetland is.
So it's something that if it does get disturbed, we can go back and say, well, you disturbed a foot of it or 2 feet of it. We can reestablish where that line originally was. Okay.
Is there enough room to pull the erosion controls out of the wetland?
I think it all depends on that, how close is it? Is it a foot or is it 4 feet or, it's what it states and what's actually there. The answer to your simple question is no. But the way it's shown on the plan. So. I mean, because we are having a replication that's gonna stay in place, I guess I would have to agree with Mr. Stone that, you know, if we have to do a temporary disturbance as long as it's put back, I guess my only question is how much and
We don't have a calculation for what would be disturbed.
no, you don't until you're out there and, you know. I mean, if you're doing a block foundation, block wall, you know, you potentially could disturb very little of it,
I
potentially.
mean, the back was gonna be on the back side of it.
That's what I mean,
digging it out,
you're gonna dig it
somehow.
out, you might disturb a foot or something or so, you know what I mean?
Right.
But,
And that's only on that very corner.
right,
It's on the corner and it gets bigger, so you're looking at, you know, this much, if that.
I mean, me personally, I'm okay with it as is, and as long as, Marco, I would say this project would have to be watched at least at the beginning, during, and then at the end, finally real. My thing is to get that wetland line back to where it was,
Absolutely.
because we're not agreeing to allow you to leave it undisturbed, so, yes.
When are you planning on building this?
Not until the spring now.
Okay. So one of the things we can do is condition that the replication area be done prior to the commencement of the addition work. That's
Yeah.
one way to assure that you've got some
You got extra
you've got a
storage.
surplus,
Yeah, yeah, you could do that, you could do it first. What are you guys' thoughts? Larry had to take his glasses off, so
Yeah.
we're in trouble.
I'm just looking. Just, I mean, yeah, I mean, to me, it's very close to the wetland, and, you know, as far as, you know, I mean, having the hay bales, and the limit of work, according to this plan, is to go into the
To
wetland.
disturb the wetland, yeah.
I mean, that's how the plan as presented. You know, if you look at it, the hay bale and silt fence line is beyond the wetland line,
Right.
so. So, you know, I mean, you can talk about scale all you want, but, you know, that shouldn't affect, that's all. That's my biggest concern. And, you know, the fact that the fence is on the wetland line and the house is, I know it's all a matter of scale, but the house is basically touching the fence in this plan. So what is it really gonna be in the final, you know? I think it's a matter of scale. This is sort of just done as a bird's eye view instead of a more detailed indication of the limit of, you know, the distance from the addition to the wetland.
I guess I have a question for Marco or Brad or whoever else might know is, if when it's all said and done, the house ends up inside the wetland line for some issue, what do we do at that point?
Well, if you're conditioning an order of conditions where the house is not within the wetland
Right.
area, then it's in violation of that order.
Okay, that's my thought, just confirming that.
Well, the house has to be at least, what, 4 feet away anyway, right? According to this, or someone said the fence is 4 feet from the,
There's a note on the plan right above, see where the house in orange is?
yeah?
There's a little note right above it that says.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The notes don't match the line drawings. That's part of the issue with the plan.
Right. So I said, if that's in fact the case, I kinda,
Then the
I'm
house.
a lot happier with that than
Yeah.
what's showing on the plan,
Right.
but what's on the plan is a little,
So if it's conditioned that the addition can't be any closer than 4 feet to the wetland, then it's matching the plan anyway.
you can condition it that
But I
way.
actually have to abstain from voting, so I'm just getting my opinions out there as a matter of, I mean, that way the condition would actually match that note on the plan, because that seems to be something that the commission asked for. But if it's not reflected in the order, then you can't really
Right.
necessarily enforce. I mean, I know you would be referencing this plan, but
Hmm.
Can I ask a completely different question? It's been a while since I looked at the original plan. Is there roof drains for this proposed addition?
Just a gutter or something?
Just rain gutters that come down the side of the building?
I mean, I haven't really gave that much thought. And, I mean, I'm not a real big gutter fan, to be honest with you.
I was just wondering
But-
where the, discharge of the water is going to
Yeah.
go.
That's all, there might be nothing.
Hmm.
what is the roof line gonna look like? Is it gonna be down this way? Or-
Which way is
That would be
that?
the bridge going that way, so.
So you would have
This
some,
way and that way.
so
It'd be the same thing if there was nothing there, basically.
yeah, because if it was going the other way, then you would have a lot more of it sheeting into the wetland.
Right.
So which way is it going?
It-
Parallel
like
to the driveway?
Parallel to?
Parallel to the driveway.
Um, Well, I don't know at this point. I see issues. I see potential issues that could hurt you later on. If the house sits in the wetlands, if the house disturbs too much of the wetland, then you have a whole nother issue on your hands. If it all falls exactly as planned, I guess I don't have a problem, so. guess
You want me to lay it out and have Martha check it?
Michael, you look like.
No, I'm apprehensive to the point where I don't want this to become an issue when you want to close out the order of conditions. It's becoming a very financial burden on the homeowner.
Right.
Because wetland regulations can get very strict in that. So that's where I was trying to feel the Conservation Commission out on, was how they want to proceed with conditioning this, I guess.
That's kind of what I'm trying to avoid, is if we condition it and we go for certificate of compliance and you're inside the wetland, it could get extremely costly to fix. So,
I think the key is to make sure that doesn't happen to begin with.
Right.
Like
Right.
every
So
step
I'm
along the
just-
way,
right.
there has to
Yeah.
be checks put in place to make sure that there's at least that 4-foot,
there's gotta be that buffer.
that 4-foot
yeah.
buffer that they're talking about here in the plan, that stays in effect.
Right. Because the way it's proposed here, I think is a good compromise. I just want to, that's my concern. I just don't want to burden you with tens of thousands of dollars of
Right.
fines from DEP, wetland replications and all this because something went not exactly as planned.
Has this been staked off at all?
No,
It hasn't.
that's what
so
he's
we're
saying
just-
is,
I've been waiting for all this to happen.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're building it, if you like gone out there with a tape to see that you can fit it in the space that's shown on this plan?
Yeah, I can do that if I have to. I mean, if I gotta, shorten it up a foot this way and I'll go a little wider, I'll reconfigure whatever just to stay away from that corner. You know what I mean?
I guess at this point, yeah, the ground's starting to freeze unfortunately. So like you said, you're probably gonna have to wait till spring.
Yeah, by the time I get permit and stuff, it's
Right.
like, it's not worth me going out there right now.
If you were to stake out the addition as you see, as here, and you say the wetland line is pretty evident,
Absolutely.
I think that's something we could do between now and December 12th. At least stake out the building, and I think Marco could at least say, yeah, I think we're okay, or we're not okay. And if we're not okay, then I hate to say, yeah, let's condition it, because then I think we're just trying to help you out, not, do you see what I'm getting at? I know you don't want to wait another 3 weeks,
No, I just
but
wanted to go get a permit right now, that's why I just almost set for ducks in a row.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Marco. Behind the addition, trying to remember, is that fully wooded right there?
Yeah, there's a lot of bittersweet in there. But
Is
yes,
it-
it is.
Is it thick enough that the fence couldn't go through there?
I wouldn't
If-
say
if-
so.
It couldn't, or it could?
I'd say it could.
It could?
Yeah.
So if the fence followed the wetland line, like towards wetland flag 7, rather than hug the addition, it's something that could be constructed?
Yes, I would say. I know there is a large tree to the right of wetland flag 7. I believe it's somewhere in this general area.
So if they, for instance, what I'm thinking is if they just more or less followed the wetland line from wetland flag 5, a little bit past wetland flag 7 with the fence rather than the configuration that's shown. So this section of it follow the
Yeah.
wetland
I
line.
get you.
They could leave it where it is rather than keep it 4 feet off. And then they'd still have access to this corner point around the foundation. They'd still have access
Right.
around here. They wouldn't need to go.
Necessarily behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
That'll allow you guys to have more room to get around back in here.
Because I'd rather not see that fence 4 feet into the wetlands.
No.
If it can be relocated and you can still access the areas you need to
Right,
around the
right.
foundation.
That's a good point.
yeah.
So the pavers, this way?
So the hay bales would, hay bales could stay where they are, I guess. But what he's saying is extend the fence this way rather than having it come this way.
Okay.
So you have a better, more approach.
All right, yeah, I mean, and then it's just that little corner.
Right, and then it's just the corner with the fence. I certainly think that's possible. I'd have to take another look at the site, but from what I remember, I believe that's possible.
Well, when I work on getting it staked out, like this corner, that's all you really care about, right? Is that corner?
Yeah, if you could stake out these two corners, that'd be
This one and this one?
correct.
Okay.
Just to get a feel for where the fence is gonna be going and how close that actually is to the wetland area. There is a break in the topography there, so you know, I would like to see the hay bales or the erosion controls along the top of the slope there. That would be a good limit of work. I mean, if you do have to get into the wetland as a temporary disturbance, then just move the erosion controls around that temporary disturbance area.
Well, this isn't showing that they're gonna be temporarily disturbing the wetland, so I wouldn't wanna necessarily allow that. I wanted to hear them what the plan is.
Right.
Yes, I think there's the potential for it, which is why we have,
Right.
but I'm not comfortable with conditioning that there's gonna be wetland disturbance.
Right.
None of that's being proposed.
That's fine.
So you
What we're looking
Stake out
for
the corners.
is staking out these two corners here,
Okay.
and I'll come out and take a look at where the wetland flags are and how close that corner is, just so we can confirm this 4-foot off foundation.
Yeah.
Setback.
I think they'll just give this commission some better feel of what that actually is back there. You know, is it literally up against it, or is there some space to work? And if there's some space to work, then I think we'd be a lot more inclined to just give you an order conditions and let you go to work. But if it's right up against there, then you might want to.
Then I may have to just back up my line, my thing.
Yeah, we might have to look at, either you can ask to disturb some temporarily, or we'll go a different route. You know, if you say, hey, my building can't get any smaller, then we might have to get back into, hey, let's disturb the wetland and,
That's what we asked for the first.
well,
Isn't that why we came here the first time, 2 months ago?
that was, and, you know, we really don't want to do that. It's, you know,
But if I do disturb it, I mean, if I replace it, because then somebody mentioned that we could do that.
yeah, I mean, sometimes that does happen with utility work and some other things, so,
All right.
you know, but that's just a temporary, but
This
you guys,
isn't- this
what
isn't
you
a
guys will work.
development, It's just an addition.
No, I know that, and,
Yeah.
and originally you guys came in to actually fill wetland, and,
We'll
What
put the
was-
structure within that fill area.
right, so that's a little bit different, but if we could get an actual
I mean, because I've already
in the
made
fields,
the addition narrower than.
correct, because it was
Yeah.
2 feet, it's 2 feet already narrower than it was, so.
Right, you know, so I'm sure we're trying to work with the best we can. You know.
Right. Yeah, I think if we actually got a field look at it, Marco,
Yeah, that's fine with me.
you know, just a couple simple stakes, and I think we'll be. Huh?
Make you feel better.
Do I have
Well,
to,
if
do I have
they
to
can't
get somebody
close,
on
we need
stuff?
to vote on this though. We're not meeting
Is
again
your
until,
approval gonna be good, or-
Oh,
Well, that's what I'm gauging from them.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have to redraw that if say the line or the stake is within a favorable distance from that wetland area. They wouldn't have to redraw that if they do abide by this 4-foot off foundation.
I would be fine with that. So as long as we have a field verification, it's listed on the plan that it's 4 foot away.
Sure.
say that again?
If I verify where the stake is for this far left corner of the addition, that it is in fact 4 feet off that wetland line, would it
But
be-
that's not, I mean, the plan is what it is. You shouldn't be going out in the field and getting anything different. If you are, there's a problem with the plan.
understandably.
It just seems like there needs to be more detail between the proposed addition, the limit of work, the wetlands, like, it's not redrawing it, it's showing it in large, you know, different scales that shows the detail. It's like when you look at the plans for like this here, you know, there's just, you can see a definitive line where a resource area is, you can see a definitive line where, you know, a building is. Here, the line is blurred. I mean, there's if I'm looking at this, the house is actually touching the wetland, you know, because of the scale. It's a matter of just, you know, zooming it in and showing a smaller section of the map, I guess. Yeah.
Taking this bill towards the end of the calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that we can get the public. All right, we can do that. All right, we're gonna table this, at least to the end of this meeting, so we can move on with our meeting, and we'll readdress it at the end of our meeting, at the end of our agenda here, so. Does that work for you?
Yeah, there's a lot of people here, I just want to.
No, that's fine,
Give them the chance.
that's fine. Where we at? That was just continued hearings, yes. All right, our new hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, to be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by Ray Tech Construction regarding the construction of a driveway and some site grading associated with a single-family house within the buffer zone of an intermittent stream and associated wetland. The address is 8 Nutting Drive, map 527, lot 40. Is there someone here representing the applicant?
I am the applicant,
Okay.
Ariano. This is a previously approved lot, went through conservation, and I guess I can't believe I did this, but I let the order of condition expire by about a week. And so, I had, how I even caught it, and it was just like, oh, I'm gonna get a building permit for this. I had gotten an approval from the DPW and also the building inspector said it's a buildable lot, and I had an old order, and I had a note, file number and so on and so forth. And then quite frankly, the DPW says, well, you come down and pay your fees and we can get going, but your order has expired. You're gonna have to do something about that. So, Marco was a great help for me. I took and filed all the paperwork, and so that's why I'm here tonight, for basically the same plan. That, I think you have that one. This is, I'll put this one up here. Yeah, there's questions. This is just a little bigger scale. Basically gonna build a single-family house here. And we're gonna have a driveway here. And really technically, I guess this little stub in the driveway is in the 100-foot buffer area. There's obviously nothing in the wetland area. And then the riverfront thing was designated on there as well. And then I actually hired a wetland scientist to go out, and he wrote a letter, and it's actually quite, maybe a little bit over my head, but he's explaining that. And this one here.
Okay.
So this stream isn't actually perennial. It's doesn't show up on any of the USGS maps as perennial.
That's the stream up here.
That's the stream. It's intermittent. It just shows as a hydrologic connection. So
I just feel very stupid that I let this run out. I mean, that's just believe it. I bought it approved with the order, and they said this will have an order, and then we bill it, you have to do a certificate of compliance. I understand that, do it all the time.
So Mr. Karen has reflagged the wetlands?
He went and verified them, yeah, that's what the letter says.
Yeah, so they're flagged now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It says that there's no riverfront, so we're just talking that 100-foot buffer.
Right.
Okay. Is this the driveway and house that was originally proposed?
It's very close, to be honest with you. I shortened the house up a little bit, and since I was gonna do it, it had a driveway here, but it's the same amount of distance. I even have a little plan somewhere. But I don't like when you build a two-story house, I don't like the drive-ins on the front. I think they look kind of lousy.
Okay.
So I think they're more appealing to come in the end. And so that's why I just shortened the house up to 42 feet versus 60 feet. And I'm doing about the same amount of area.
Okay.
And that's just my preference how to do it. And this one is filed in my name versus Jacqueline Antonio's name. So that, you know, Anthony Cleves from Whitman and Bingham did the plan.
So the only thing you're really proposing inside the buffer is that little stub of the driveway.
And I think, to get this house in here, you've got to get a machine around here and
Yeah.
a concrete truck. Let's, there's no way.
Are you gonna be doing any grading back here after the fact, or is this?
Well, I will try to keep it as natural as I can, because the grades, this is actually fairly flat. I mean, I'm gonna have to dig a foundation and backfill it,
Right.
whatever room that's gonna take, yeah,
Right.
I'm gonna have to do that.
How old is the original order?
It's not very old, it is 3 years old.
So it was never extended?
No, it's never
It
extended.
just came up, we conditioned it, and it expired.
Correct.
I had all intentions just to extend it, would that be the right term? And
That's
I didn't get that done.
Right.
I went to my son's wedding in South Dakota, and I kind of lost it. I put it on my calendar, I said, gotta get that done, I gotta get that done, I gotta get that done, and,
So
honestly, I don't like coming to these hearings.
So your son's wedding's more important than the Conservation
Well,
Commission? Come on now.
the situation it had to be, no doubt about it.
Any other questions or comments?
I got one quick
Sure.
one. The erosion control, it mentions that there's a note for straw wattles, but the detail almost looks like it's a straw wattle with a silt fence.
I'll be doing probably both, because I
Okay.
usually sub that out to soybean.
All right, I'd like to see both. I'm not comfortable with just the straw wattles.
It's such a small area that, I mean, we're not talking a big cost here.
Any other questions?
Mark, have you seen the wetlands on this?
Yeah, I've been out there.
I mean, I know it's not that old, but I just, things change over time, so.
Yeah. I felt comfortable with Chuck's
Yeah,
assessment.
he's usually, yeah, okay.
All right, anybody in the audience like to speak on this? Second time? And third and final time? Any other comments or questions from the commission? Any objection to closing the public hearing? Do you have any recommendation, Mr. Mangrazi?
Yeah, I want to bring up the fact that the original order, this slipped my mind, but it has to have a certificate of compliance for it. Now, you didn't do any work, so
None.
it would just be the simple matter of saying that no work has been done to date, and that you're requesting a
Oh, really? It won't die by itself, huh?
Right,
Oh,
so.
I didn't actually know that.
Um,
I always kind of wondered what happened with those. Okay, go ahead.
It describes it in the conditions, what you should do with that. So how, I guess I want to see what the commission would, if they would feel comfortable with conditioning this, that we'll issue the order conditions upon receipt of the request for certificate of compliance for 199-10-004.
Was that original order recorded?
Yes, it was.
It was.
You would want to get that.
The reason I'm comfortable with doing that is because no work had been done on this side.
Right. I have no problems with that.
We can't roll that, I think you answered the question, and I'm gonna ask it again.
Sure.
We can't roll that and I can't get a certificate on a new number and,
Well, technically, we're not supposed to issue two orders for the same property.
but that one would be expired, right? The one
Well, it's
that-
expired, but it's
That's
still.
why I'm here.
It's still open on your deed.
Oh,
You have to close it out.
yeah, I know that too.
That would come up in a title search when you go to sell a
All
home.
right. So we gotta close that first, and then we can issue a order conditions on the new one.
And so,
I guess that's where I want to be at. If you're fine with just that being a condition on this new order, then okay. And I won't issue the order until I receive that request from you. It's a very
Right.
simple form.
yeah, I've done those, several of them. It's a one-page thing and it's, I got it.
We have to approve it though. What's that? We have to approve it. I don't really think it's that big of an issue.
Okay.
I mean, that's a policy that DEP has, that's not in the regs.
Oh,
So if,
I would bring it to the registry.
Yeah,
I hate
I
to
mean-
interrupt you. I'd bring it to the registry, get it recorded, give you a copy of that. That's what I've done in in Westminster, I build over there. They say, okay, give me, Bob Anthony will say, you get me that certificate of compliance and you record that, and then I give it to the agent, and then that's usually how they do them over there.
I mean, the certificate isn't really holding us up. It behooves you to get that process taken care of. So if you get if we issue an order tonight, you get that recorded, you come in right after that with a request for certificate on the old order, get that off your title. I don't see an issue with us issuing an order now and
More of a
just.
title issue, right?
It's a,
Yeah,
it is,
it's
right. Yeah.
But you'd want to get that off. of
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna, yeah. Attorneys are good at picking it
Oh,
up.
yeah.
So I don't see the need to hold up this order for the release on the old one.
that's my thought.
Okay.
All right, in that case, I would recommend that we issue a standard order of conditions with a standard boilerplate. I would like to note that as an extra condition, or extra conditions, that 48-hour notice to conservation agent for inspection of erosion controls prior to work starting on site. And that you submit a request for certificate of compliance for DP file number 199-1007.
Okay. And that's the old one,
Correct. And also that an as-built upon completion to be.
which is standard.
Yeah, that's reiterated in the order.
In the boilerplate.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion with Marco's recommendations or any other recommendations?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for 8 Nutting Drive, map 527, lot 40, per the conditions that our agent just mentioned, with the additional condition that the erosion control be a combination of a straw wattle and silt fence barrier.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next hearing, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 as amended, there will be a public hearing to consider a notice of intent by Jamison Van Dyke regarding the construction of a driveway and some site grading for a septic system within the buffer zone of an intermittent stream and associated wetland, address Pierce Street, map 412, lot 10. Is there a DP file number, Marco?
No, there's not. We don't
Okay.
don't have any comments or a DP file number as of yet.
Okay. Is there someone representing the applicant?
Yeah, Trevor Fletcher, I'm with the engineering company. Got some plans for you guys.
Excuse me, what company are you with?
Graz Engineering. So, how would that force? Somebody want to
I'll do a little sharing over here.
I'll take my glasses.
So where we left off on this project, after the RDA, we determined that the stream on the site is intermittent rather than perennial. We had to go and
Remember the
find-
pictures.
Yes, the pictures. And we found that 4 days it was dry. So then we took that information, we designed a 4-bedroom, single-family house on the site. And that resulted in the driveway, obviously being within the 100-foot buffer. And there's going to be some associated grading with that and minimal clearing because there's also is an existing path that leads to the back of the site where the soil testing was done. So we kind of tried to stay as much on that as we could going back until we got out of the buffer zone. And then we kind of dragged it up towards the garage there. And then on the back side of the septic system, there's also going to be grading due to the high groundwater. The septic system actually had to be raised up quite a bit because it was very shallow groundwater. And Title V requires you to go 15 feet out and then go down 3 to 1. And the site is existing sloping down, so it took a little while to catch up to that. So that's why there's grading in the 100-foot buffer on that side. But the rectangular line that goes along, like in between the driveway and the stream, that's going to be erosion control, either silt fence or wattles, whatever the commission feels comfortable with. I believe Jamie's planning on using hay bales. Yeah, I think hay bales, not wattles. But that's pretty much all I have to say about that. And I'm pretty sure everybody's been out there, correct, to see the flagging and all that, yeah.
Did you read the delineation?
That's right. They don't know any wetland flag numbers on the plan, but there are wetland flags out in the field. And this is the line.
Yeah, more or less follows the bank of the stream. It's pretty defined.
They're actually, I felt they were actually pretty conservative with their flagging of that wetland area, rather than just the stream bank.
Is the plan to let the driveway just sheet flow right into Pierce Street? Or,
I believe we usually try to leave 20 feet flat area towards the bottom. Usually.
well, I'm looking here at 76 down to 72.
Yeah, then
down
it just
to-
goes whatever existing grade is. We're not proposing any grade change, I don't believe, from then on.
Because that's just a lot of, that's a steep driveway, and you know, what is that, 30, only 32 feet, I mean.
Yeah.
That's a lot of water to, that it's gonna have a lot of, momentum.
Yeah, more or less, we try to kind of show a crown on the driveway, so the water kind of goes to the sides of the driveway, and from there kind of disperses into the, that was our hope anyway. Wouldn't just stay on track of the driveway all the way down.
Because we did, I don't know, it might even been in, I think it was in this area too, where they actually put a dip in the driveway down the bottom,
Okay.
because we don't want to flood Pierce Street.
Yeah, I
and
understand
have,
that, yeah.
have ice problems in the wintertime
Yeah.
for the residents.
Okay. Yeah, we got plenty of room to grade that however you want to at the bottom there. I'm pretty sure it's pretty flat there now, isn't it?
It's fairly flat.
Yeah.
Marco Pierce Street, public?
Yes.
What are the stormwater regulations as far as water discharging into the road?
Well, it's supposed to be maintained on site.
So it looks like we gotta rework the driveway a little bit. Because I don't see this being maintained on site as proposed. If it has to meet stormwater, standards for the city.
That would just be our ordinance.
Is there a permitting process in place for the phase 2?
Well, there is a permitting process, yeah, there would be the stormwater management thing.
How does the city typically handle a site that's got more than an acre of disturbance?
So that would be, would that fall under the, help me out with this, Brad.
Well,
Yeah, construction general.
stormwater bylaw points to the Conservation Commission, so, from what I read.
Right, you're right.
But in reality, it's usually municipal staff that oversees the day-to-day function of that.
Yeah, that's correct.
So because this is gonna be over an acre, and the city's essentially gonna be on the hook with their phase 2 permit for monitoring this type of a site, I was just curious how that process is working now.
Yeah, that would be between me and DPW.
So is there an actual permit that's issued at this point, or is there?
There is a permit, it's a stormwater ordinance permit, stormwater management permit on the city side.
Okay, so before they can commence construction on a site like this, because it's gonna be more than an acre, they have to get a permit from DPW?
Correct.
Okay,
It gets reviewed by DPW, and if there are any concerns where they can't meet the stormwater requirements, it would come to the Conservation Commission.
as part of that process, are they automatically required to generate and give to the city a SWIP?
Yes, they would be at that point. I mean, if they're over an acre of disturbance, that would qualify for a SWIP.
Okay. So I think on our end right now, for the notice of intent, and knowing that you're gonna have to do some of these things regardless to satisfy DPW as well, so that they're in compliance with their NPDES permit, I'd like to see how you can mitigate some of that stormwater on site more.
Okay.
It is quite a long driveway. Is it gonna be paved?
I believe so.
That's how you're designing it? This is what-
That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
I haven't talked to Jamie about it yet, but.
Right, I believe we had one done just down the street recently. Did they incorporate rain gardens into that one, or?
It was the same deal as the flat area on the.
But I thought at one point it actually went off, it got sent off somewhere halfway.
Yeah, there was an existing,
Yeah.
drainage
Trench.
area,
Mhm.
drainage ditch type thing that was already there
Yeah.
on the cart path, and they incorporated that into the design, and they pitched water into that.
And does that
Right.
abut this property?
It's it's another lot over.
Another lot.
So you don't trigger stormwater management policy under the regs for this, but I think intuitively you can do something to manage the quality and the peak concerns as well, whether you do some small basins to the side or come up with
Yeah,
some other
infiltration
features.
trenches, something
Um,
on that.
And really, I mean, the grading's not really showing it as you described it. It's gonna be crowned or,
Yeah, I mean, I kind of try to, it's where I have the numbers, it
Yeah.
kind of comes like that a little bit. I don't want to show it too much to make it look a little wacky.
okay.
But and then the maximum slope on it's 12%, which I believe is the Leominster regulations
Yeah.
for driveways.
So that is pretty steep
Yeah.
and lengthy, so, maybe you can capture some of that midway or in different spots and kind of collect it and let
I
it.
think our thought process originally was have the steep part up here, is that way it wouldn't be all rushing towards the bottom. You don't want to have it closer to the road, the steep part. So I think we try to make the steep part kind of up here, and to reduce the amount of fill, that's kind of where it's steep anyway. So we kind of tried to average it out a little bit up there, but instead of pulling one grade way down.
Yeah, so I would see if you can come up with something there, I would suggest, as well as give us a good narrative on the SWIP, since you're gonna have to do that anyway.
Okay.
So I think we had concerns with the other one about what's gonna happen in Pierce Street, should you get a significant event here. And like I say, you're gonna be required to do that for another city department.
Yeah. Okay.
We try to do that now, and then we can condition it so that everyone's satisfied here as well.
Okay.
Fine. You want to open it to the public, right?
See if anyone else has any questions.
I have a question. Has this gone before the Board of Health regarding the?
I don't believe so. I think we usually wait till the conservation's done, then we send it to the Board of Health.
I would recommend sending it to the Board of Health in the event that he does have a.
It's something to
concern.
change, and then, okay, I got
And then
you.
you'd have to come back for.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would recommend you submit this to the Board of Health.
Okay.
And just get any of his general comments on.
Okay.
the,
Yeah, I mean,
septic
it
system.
depends on something, we just gotta get it to them, that's all.
So that would be my, do that at ASAP.
Yeah, okay.
Comments, questions? Anyone else before I open it to the public? Anybody in the audience like to speak on this notice of intent? Yes, sir.
Stanley Trim, I'm in a butter,
What's your address?
557. And let me just comment on what you guys allowed to happen last year with 585 Pierce Street in that long driveway. Whatever it is you told them to do, they didn't do, and that whole driveway washes out every major rainstorm. And it's now down in the pond. So, I don't have any, I'm not confident what they're doing is gonna work. And the other question I have, how were they putting a lot in if there isn't enough frontage? You guys addressed this last year as well, when the Alberts applied for the same permit.
Sure.
Just for the record, we, like, Conservation Commission really doesn't get involved with zoning and things like that. All we can do is look at the portion of the project that's jurisdictional to us.
But
That's really, otherwise we're going beyond
Yeah.
the limitations of what we're able to do, and, you know, so we really can't address frontage.
I understand, but you guys did address it, did you not? At a meeting, because of the frontage situation?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm not aware of that.
I was at that meeting and I'm aware of it.
The city, I will tell you, the city frontage is 100 feet at the house, not at the street, but at the house.
Explain. Front to back?
No, the house itself is required to have 100 feet, not at the road, but at the house.
That isn't the way it was addressed the last time.
That's,
You guys were talking about possibly giving almost a 70% variance to make this lot happen. And you told Albert that since he owned all that land around there, to find another way. And what he did is he ended up selling it. And they put that house up behind us. And now they want to put a house up behind me, and you guys called it yourself a pork chop lot, and you refrained from it.
That's not this board. There
No,
might be
you
another
sure?
board.
it has to
I
be.
can tell you, I don't know what a pork chop lot is, so.
Yeah,
That would be planning board.
I would say that would have to be planning board.
Was
associated
it?
with that.
And
Yeah.
I'm under the understanding if the planning board approves a lot, then the lot can be built on, regardless of the frontage. So if, let's say but prior to the zoning bylaws coming in, if a lot has so much frontage, that carries over and it's still a building lot, as long as planning board approved it as a building lot. So when I got involved in this project, the lot was already a lot. So we took that as it's a building lot.
So who owns the lot?
Jameson Van Dyke just bought the lot
From
from the prior owner, I forgot his name.
the Alberts?
Yeah, actually, yeah, he's still on the.
John Albert?
Yeah,
or-
Albert, yeah. That's just where I got involved. I don't know when the lot was created and whatnot.
Okay. And the driveway situation from the stream, what is the requirement there?
So you're asking,
How far does the driveway have to be from the wetland?
well, it could be right up against it, but we would like to see a minimum of 25 feet, I mean.
And when you say intermittent stream, and that's the other issue, why weren't we notified that hearing was occurring, so we could have attended.
That was placed in the newspaper as it was a request for determination of applicability, does not require a butter notifications.
So we have to be tethered to the newspaper to find out what's happening around our property?
That's the requirements of the Wetland Protection Act, and that's how we go about it here.
I find that extremely insulting. Mr. Trim is immediately adjacent to where this driveway wants to be put in. I was at the other meetings, and I heard another house will never be built up there because there is no room, no frontage. Now you're saying frontage is the back of the house. I find that BS. Because they said on that cart road, see, I live at 494. I've been living there since 1975. The house that this gentleman right here lives in was my family house. I sold it to that gentleman. So since 1975, and 1969 actually, when my family built the original house of that gentleman who now lives at 476, I live at 494. So all during that time, I'll tell you another thing too, the culvert that's underneath Pierce Street is being systematically destroyed. It's an old brick culvert. I've gone down in there to clean out that brook to keep it running because it butts my property. It goes down behind my property. I've taken more bricks out of there. I'm just waiting for that culvert to cave in. Now, at the meeting that we were at before, like I said, I find it very insulting because they said a house would never be built up there. There was no frontage. Mr. Trim sits right next to the stream. And you're trying to tell me that there's enough frontage to put a driveway in there? I've been sitting there looking at the driveway that you guys approved at 585. And I can't believe it. Like Mr. Trim just said, this 100-year storm thing is so idiotic to me. I'm more concerned about 2 or 3 storms that we get hit with back to back. I've seen that driveway at 585 bring itself right down that half-assed job that they did put that driveway in, run down Pierce Street, and settle down there at the pond. That driveway is eroding the right side of Pierce Street that they just paved. And that driveway, constantly you're seeing rocks and debris at the front of that driveway. So you're going to try to convince me that they're going to put another driveway on the other side of the old John Morrow house, and that's not going to happen. I want to be able to drive up and down Pierce Street. I am totally incensed. I don't get the Sentinel that we were not informed as abutters. To even out of the blue, I get a letter, a certified letter in the mail telling me, oh, they're going to do a driveway and a septic tank.
Why didn't they mention a house?
I was never told that there was going to be a house there. Doesn't a house plan have to come before a driveway and a septic tank? I'm insulted. I am absolutely insulted.
The original.
I'm insulted by this commission too. I'll be honest with you, I am.
The original meeting was just for the determination whether the stream is perennial or intermittent.
That stream is.
There was no.
I've been there since 1975, and that stream runs. It runs down underneath Pierce Street between my parents and my home at one time and my current home. It runs between my actually it's a boundary between my land and this gentleman's land now. Runs down behind my house, eventually emptying into Lake Shirley. And I just cannot believe, I can't fathom, after seeing what's being presented to me by that driveway at 585, and what you want to do again. And like I say, I don't care about these 100-year storms. I'm not concerned about a 100-year storm. I'm not going to be here. I'm more concerned about a snowstorm that we get it twice. Like a couple of years ago, we got 2 or 3 back-to-back snowstorms.
I think if you gentlemen and ladies sat or looked at where I sat and what they proposed to do, they'll put a driveway right up the side of my house, right up my whole property line, and then set a house right on top of the hill, king of the castle, and that's all I'll be looking at when I sit in my backyard. And the goddamn encroachment that's going on out there, just throwing houses wherever you can, it's too much. We moved there to have woods, critters, nature, and now just everything seems to be getting rubber stamped for a project, for a house.
Not to mention the fact that you're gonna have a septic system up there, septic system up here, stream down here. The last time I checked, S flows downhill.
All right, let me address this. This board is here to address the Wetlands Protection Act.
I understand.
Wait.
And how quickly that boundary barrier and limitation changes from 200 feet to what, 100 feet? Is that correct?
That's correct.
After what?
The
A few
first-
walkthroughs? And I seen you out there, Marcos, and it seems like you're always there the day before a rainstorm. And if you were there after, you would see that the stream does run. I've seen you a couple
We were given
times.
documentation of an intermittent stream. That's all the act requires. It's 4 days of intermittency throughout a given year.
All right, so if it's intermittent, those are the days they can live there and build? And if it's running, they can't be there?
It's a classification of a
I know,
stream.
I
So-
understand, I'm being
and that's-
facetious.
Whether we like it or not, that's the law.
Yep, I
And that's
understand.
the regulations, and that's, if the applicant can prove, and can, or not prove, but to document the fact that it's dry 4 days out of the year.
Who proved it?
Marco was visibly there, and there was pictures presented to this board, dated,
Via the app.
stamped by the applicant.
And we're bound to, if we challenge that, we'd be overextending our authority. It's the same as this property. We can only look at the things that are jurisdictional to us.
I understand.
Otherwise, we're putting the city liable for legal action, because we'd be overextending our boundaries.
This board is not here to define frontage. This board is not here to define location of house. We're here to address the parcel of land that's put in front of us
Well, pardon the
And
pun,
for-
open the floodgates.
and address the Wetlands Protection Act.
Well, have the commission go out and look what the results of what they allow with that driveway at 585. Come on out, I'll go out there with you, I'll hobble out there with you, and I'll show you the results of the runoff that's running into Pierce Street,
It's still
running
there
down Pierce
from the
Street.
last rainstorm.
Is that a gravel driveway?
I'll show it to you, that's what you guys allowed.
That
I
gravel
sat here and I argued with you about that. I argued about having a reclamation pond
I don't know.
or a reclamation area on the side to catch that runoff. It got blown off. Your
And they didn't-
contractor guy there blew it off.
They didn't do the proposed, they sold you guys, or someone, that they were gonna put a hump at the end of the driveway to keep that from going back up, so back drains.
Yeah, there was supposed to be a dip at the bottom to.
Go take a peek at that.
Right, well, there is the city does have a stormwater ordinance. The conservation agent is available to come out and, address those issues, and that's his role. So if you see these things happening, you need to let him know, let the DPW know, because the city has a stormwater ordinance that they have to uphold as well.
Mr. Chairman, can I speak?
Yes.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Brandon Vaccaro, and I own the property at 476 Pierce Street, which is directly across from where the proposed project is. I would like to draw the attention to the fact that work was started on this job long before any approval was put in place. On June 5th, I sent you an email notifying you that there was work being done over there. There was a number of construction vehicles that was back over there. They had moved a lot of hay bales in long before they ever came to you. And obviously that's a little bit irregular. I was never notified. I was never given any kind of notification of this meeting. The only reason I knew about it was because Stan let me know yesterday. I never received any kind of mail. My property is directly across the street, literally however wide the street is, 20 some odd feet from this. So I believe I should have been notified. There's irregularities that have happened with this. So, I mean, I hope you understand, my neighbors are very upset and frustrated about this. I understand this commission is limited to regulating the things under the purview of this commission, but certainly some of the irregularities with this should throw up some red flags, that things are moving very quickly with this job, and not every T is being crossed, not every I is being dotted.
As for the abutters, Marco, when it comes to across the street, how does that?
If he's within 100 feet of the property line, he has to be notified.
Well within 100 feet of the property
So
line.
you're well within 100 feet. To address your
What's your
concerns,
address?
476 Pierce Street.
to address your concerns prior to this on June 5th, like you said, there were construction vehicles up there to do infiltration.
Check and see if you got that.
To do,
Yeah.
why can't I think of it right now?
Perk?
Tests, thank you. That's exempt under the Wetland Protection Act, okay? So they can do perk tests up there, can disturb ground, can disturb vegetation, if they're doing perk tests.
And they're not required to notify you, because at the time you had no notification.
I had no notification at the time. As far as stockpiling hay bales up there, I can't tell them not to. As long as it's not a wildlife barrier of any sort, there's no regulations associated with that. So that's to address those concerns.
Michael,
Now,
Just
as
to
far as-
voice some of the concerns that my neighbors have
I
expressed.
take great offense in the fact that a variance was given. What happened to the good old-fashioned tradition of letting the people who abut the land know what's going on? What happened to that tradition of letting the people who are gonna be definitely concerned, involved, maybe detrimentally concerned? I mean, all of us out of the blue, oh, a variance was given, well, that's interesting, I wonder how that so slipped through.
What variance, I guess, are you alluding to?
Well, the paperwork I'm seeing, the variance was given to have all this done. I mean, I've been there since 1975.
What variance? What
Yeah,
work?
The fact that all of a sudden now, there's frontage. When I was at the last meeting here, it was absolutely unequivocally said that there was not enough frontage from the old John Morrow house to Mr. Trim's house.
Not from this
That
board.
was the planning board, that's completely different.
No, that was
board.
here.
The planning board
Well,
meets in this room.
They meet in this room, but this is
On
not the board,
Tuesdays,
so
So
we can't address that. Yes, Mr. Stone.
Marco, procedurally with the abutter notices, do you get copies of the mail receipts? How?
I'm supposed to get copies of the mail receipts.
the
It's supposed to be a certified abutters list that
Yeah.
is given.
Okay, because you have the originals, right? Is this from your file?
Yeah, this was not given to me.
Not, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll just bring it to him today.
Okay, so these are,
We've been collecting them as they come back.
so these originals you're delivering to the commission?
Yes.
Okay, so, and I guess, getting back to your concern about abutter notice, you said you're at what address again?
476.
476. So somebody signed the certified letter on October 28th at 476 Pierce Street.
Mr. Commissioner, can I see that?
No,
Please.
I think the problem there is, Mr. Brendan, someone here, someone in the city government should have checked to see who actually lives at 476, 'cause I sold that house 2 years ago.
Right. That is not my signature, that is not the signature of my girlfriend. We are the only.
And I sold that house to that gentleman
What
2
I-
years
can I
ago.
See the rest of those?
Yeah.
What I'm also finding on this town's website of records, none of the new owners seem to be in place, so we don't know who's playing here. Albert still shows and owns that whole slew, and
What's it take, a year, or what's
It
it take
usually
that
takes
cycle?
several cycles of the database to be
Correct.
updated. It's
2
updated,
years, Marco?
possibly not 2 years, I don't know, that's with the assessor's office. But there is a time lapse where they do update new owners. How long have you owned that property? If you don't
I
mind me
bought
asking?
it, I think we closed
years.
in May 2016. So
2016.
it is still listed as
2015,
Ruth
I got
Sango, which is the previous owner. Obviously, the records haven't been updated. But that is not my signature, that is not the signature of my girlfriend Amanda Rankin. We are the only current residents of that house. So if someone signed for that letter, it was either at a different property or someone forged that signature.
That possibly might have been signed by one of my family members. I did not sign anything, I was not.
It certainly should not
At
have been
home.
delivered to a different mailing address. If it's addressed to
I
476.
think that really,
it
the
should
grand
come to my
scheme of
house.
everything is, oh, BS, so what? The gentleman who lives there right now is here. expressing his concern. That is BS. That has no importance whatsoever to the questions of what is going on here tonight. I got a body that can talk right there.
Anyway, guys, continue. This is how we feel, and
The last concern that I actually wanted to express on this is to praise Commissioner, I believe it's Giannakis. Apologize, I can't quite see that there's a glare. And Commissioner Stone, you did have a lot of insight, obviously, when you recognized that the runoff of this driveway is a concern. The previous project, we've seen that in fact the steps were not taken to address this. There's been a significant amount of dirt on Pierce Street all summer. Large stones, I mean car damaging stones that have been washed out regularly by the rainstorm. So I think your insight into recognizing that there's a large concern as to where all of this water is going to go, we're not necessarily satisfied that the plans as they sit are really addressing that concern. So hopefully, I think you guys will take that into account as you look at this, that there needs to be some process in place to ensure that if there are plans approved, that those steps are actually taken and that we're not looking at a severe amount of runoff that's being washed out into the road, potentially damaging vehicles, washing into the pond. I mean, this is a wetland issue. This is a lot of runoff that's been washed into that pond over the course of this summer. And we had a few heavy storms. I mean, nothing unusual for Massachusetts, I don't think.
Marco,
Yeah.
can you take a look at that?
I certainly will.
tomorrow?
We'll
Or
take a look at
as soon
that.
as
I
you-
know there's a lot of erosion along Pierce Street, and that was existing for a while, ever since they paved it.
Sure.
So I can tell you that. I can tell you that I have talked to DPW about putting riprap to secure that slope there along the
Yeah,
along the
where it
road
comes
bank.
down off and goes back to the pond.
So that's where a lot of the sediment is coming from. I have no doubt that there probably is sediment coming from this property.
Well, it's
It is
large
an
rocks
active,
that
it is
concern.
an active construction site.
Mhm.
But if there are any erosion issues, they will have to be addressed, as it is an open order on that house, okay? They have to comply with that open order conditions.
Sure.
And they have to construct that driveway in accordance with that order. In order to close out that order, they have to come for a certificate of compliance. And if when they come for that certificate of compliance, something is not right or something is not correct, it has to be addressed.
So in other words, even though there's not currently a dip, as long as there's a dip when they do the compliance check
That
at
is
the end,
correct.
they'll be, okay, thank you.
Now, I don't believe in the orders we had set a stage for how they should address the kind of the dip issue in the driveway. But I will reflect on those and see what there is, and I certainly will come out to the site to view these.
I mean, I guess in the future, if you do see an active site, the first person would be to call the DPW or Marco, if you know, because if it's an open order of conditions, we can try to address that
Sure.
as time goes on.
Yeah.
Until it comes, if it's an issue before the certificate of compliance, we can, as a commission, address that with DPW as well. But
That is correct.
someone also needs to step up and notify, Marco would be the first
Yeah.
person to contact,
Now, I still have a problem with this driveway. The point the gentleman made tonight, you're gonna put a driveway in, it's gonna come up, it's gonna be like this and come down, put a little crest in the middle. Okay, I'm looking at that driveway. The water coming down on the left side, it's gonna go into the old John Morrow house. The water coming down on the right side of that driveway is gonna go into the brook that's right beside Mr. Trim's house, and then flow through my property, and eventually into Lake Shirley. And like I told you, that culvert underneath Pierce Street, I've been down there so many times cleaning out bricks and rocks and debris, freeing up that brook when the house was owned by my family. I can tell you that culvert doesn't have much of a life. It's an old brick, the old nice orange bricks. And like you put a driveway in, it's got a crest, water's gonna come down, it's gonna go off to the left, and it's gonna go off to the right into that pond.
And we've asked the engineer to look at
Okay, you
mitigating.
channel it so it comes all the way down. When it hits Pierce Street, what's it gonna do? It's gonna go down, it's gonna join the water that's coming down the hill from the old Ken White house up on the hill. All that water coming down that side is gonna join that.
For this piece of property that's in front of us tonight, we've asked the engineer to address our concerns and your concerns with some sort of water mitigation at the base of that driveway, because someone here mentioned, we do not want this water entering Pierce Street.
Yeah, and I can tell you
So-
back when the house that Mr. Trim is living in now was owned by another family years ago, when I was still living in 476, their septic system polluted that brook. My parents, I was still in high school or getting ready to go into the military, fought with the residents and the city about their septic system leaking into that brook. I mean, it has been fixed. Mr. Trim is very aware of the fact that he's got that brook there. And I appreciate that. But also, like I say, you've got a house, another house up there, and you got a septic tank.
What is the next step? And forgive me my lack of ignorance on town politics and this whole situation. You guys give the green light for this, right? What's the next step? Where do you go? To the planning board?
The next step, we would send the plans into the Board of Health to get the septic system approved. After they approve whatever they need to approve, that's when the site work can begin. The work on the septic system cannot start until the Board of Health approves the septic plan.
What do you mean you say work begins? Planning work or actual construction?
All the planning's done. If they approve this plan, then the site work for the driveway and anything like that can begin, as long as they get a building permit. I'm pretty sure they have to go through that whole process.
Now, have you looked into the building permit?
I don't have anything to do with that. That's all the applicant, because whoever's constructing it gets the building permit.
The building commissioner at that time would catch any issues with frontage regarding whether or not that even is a buildable lot. That's where it would be caught, because that is his
But
job.
timing is everything here.
Sure.
So let me,
So-
I'll tell you
All right.
how that will work.
All right. Fair enough.
Thank you again for hearing our concerns.
Anybody else want to speak on this notice of intent? All right. What do we ask? Any more concerns or questions?
So for now, I'd just like to see some visions.
Yeah. Are you aware of what we would like to see?
Yeah, you want to see no runoff going into the street, clearly.
Right.
Yeah, so I'll bring that up to Paul. I mean, Paul's the head engineer, and
Right.
he knows how to mitigate all that stuff. We do major stormwater, all that stuff. So we'll look into it. We'll be in contact with Marco to get more specifics on all the concerns that everybody has.
Right.
And if he goes out and looks at something and wants something changed in the plan, we can certainly do that. And yeah, we're willing to do anything that the Conservation Commission wants us to do.
Please submit this to
The Board of Health, yeah.
as soon as
First thing,
possible.
yeah.
Thank you.
One thing that we asked for on the other project, and I hope it's in place now, I didn't notice, but we had asked for a construction entrance with a stone and everything,
Construction pad?
a construction pad.
Yeah.
If it could just, is that something the commission would feel okay?
One of the things I asked for was the stormwater pollution prevention plan, so they should be providing a number of BMPs
Okay.
In there.
that they intend to use or have the option to use depending on how the site conditions change. So
Okay.
that may be one
Okay.
that's a good suggestion. I mean, it's pretty standard BMP for a site like that, but there's other things you're gonna wanna look at for the SWIP too.
Like you said, DPW has to approve it as well.
It goes in front of the DPW
Yeah,
under
okay.
stormwater permit.
Yeah.
Do they issue the driveway permit too?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so.
So it's all one. Well,
Is
it's not
there-
one, but it's separate permits, but it would be, yeah.
Okay.
But the driveway can't be constructed until DPW looks at
Correct.
it.
They
So
have
that,
to-
yeah, that's another thing that can't be
Because
started.
it is a
until-
road cut. You're cutting.
Yeah.
Right. All right, we're gonna leave the public hearing open. Would you like to continue it to our next meeting?
Sure.
All right, we're gonna continue this to the next meeting, December 12th, 2017, well, it doesn't matter.
If you wouldn't mind, I'll keep
mine.
Yeah.
Definitely keep his.
Yeah. Also,
Give those to Marco, correct?
Here are all the
Do you want
notifications.
to talk about this before we go to the meeting?
Yeah, I don't know yet who signed that, the one that he was supposed to get.
Okay.
Yeah, I get slow.
It looks like is the name the same on those two?
They were.
Sango, somebody else Sango?
Do they get forwarded?
It might have, the mailman might have saw the same last name on two of them and thought it was supposed to go to the same place. That's the only thing I can figure out.
Yeah.
Because the addresses were correct.
You can't follow the mailman, they do what they do, it's their job.
Yeah.
Very true.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go back to 35 Day Street. So,
can we
we appreciate your patience. We really do.
begin thin? I'm not gonna lie, but can we just continue this? I'll have Ken blow up that 4-foot thing and have him come back and explain this to you, because I mean, I'm just a builder. I mean, I don't get into all this fine detail stuff, you know,
Right.
it's part of it, you know what I mean? So,
We can,
because, I mean, you know, he was agreed to draw up whatever, so that's why I came here tonight, just to give you guys this stuff, and it was supposed to be pretty cut and dry. You know what I mean?
I don't have a problem with that. It's procedurally, Mr. Stone.
We've closed the public hearing already.
I know.
Yeah.
I thought we would do it. All right. So what do we do? We've never been in this situation.
You condition it to the best of your abilities tonight, because you closed it.
Yeah.
You can't accept new information at this point. You can't reopen the public hearing.
You know, I mean, that's my whole point, is that you guys agreed to have him draw up what he's drawing up, and how it's all of a sudden, there's all different things, and he hasn't been at any of these meetings, and
All right.
So I'll tell you my thoughts. I think I expressed them earlier, but I'll try to clarify them. Again, I'm comfortable with what's being proposed, with the exception that I'd like to see the portion of the stockade fence that's behind the proposed addition to run along the wetland line, going a little bit ways past wetland flag 7.
Yeah.
That would be the permanent location of it. I think that would still give you access around the building that you need. I don't think that we can condition it, or I don't think I would be comfortable conditioning a 4-foot offset as this note says, because that's going to put it in the wetland area, and that area is not going to be protected. So by keeping it where it's shown on the plan, with the exception that that last segment gets constructed along the wetland line in the back there rather than where it's shown, that would be enough to satisfy me at least. And you'd have to understand that this order wouldn't be granting you permission to alter the wetlands in that area, because that's not what the plan shows. So you're gonna have to come up with a construction sequence in that allows you to do this foundation without going in there. And if you can't do that, if you pull the building permit and you get in the field and you realize you can't do that, then you'd have to come back with us for an amendment to the order.
And it's no big deal if I were to move this up, you know, 6 inches a foot or whatever, and make it, just to get away from that a little bit.
It could come under a minor modification
Right.
or a request for sorry, I'm like fried today. Not a new order, but an amended order of conditions. Depending on how great that change
Not going
is.
into it, that's for sure.
So at that point, I would think that as minor change, other members maybe not, but something that can be discussed at a later date. It's my input on it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make it easy on everybody. Yeah.
What-
Excuse me one second, Brad, can you repeat the one exception, just so that I get it correctly? You said keep it where it's shown on the plan with the one exception of, can you just repeat that,
The
please?
stockade fence behind the proposed addition should run from the rear corner and run along the wetland line, a little ways past wetland flag 7.
Thank you.
Any other conditions, comments? before I ask Marco what his thoughts are. I would definitely add that the replication area be done prior to as well, so. Marco? Oh,
Just for information purposes, replication areas typically are done during the growing season.
yeah.
So the ideal time to do a replication area is in the spring or in the fall. So if you're intending to build this in the spring, then you'd start that, you do that replication area, dig it out, do the plantings, get it done in the spring, and then pull the building permit and commence the work in the addition after that.
Yeah.
I think that's how we're leaning to
So-
condition it that way. So
So
you
it's
build
too late
this.
to do this now,
It's too late to do that now, correct?
so do it first thing in the spring.
Yeah.
Well, once the growing season starts, I mean, that really depends on what type of winter you get.
Marco?
In that case, I recommend a standard order of conditions with a standard boilerplate and the following added conditions: that 48-hour notice to conservation agent prior to the start of work to allow for review of erosion controls. Erosion controls shall be installed and maintained as shown on the approved plan. Wetland replication shall be conducted prior to construction and during the period, during a growing season. As-built plan shall note the wetland replication area, and a wetland consultant shall accompany the as-built, and a letter from a wetland consultant shall accompany the as-built plan stating that the wetland has been replicated as required in this order. So that's just part of the certificate of compliance process. The portion of the stockade fence shall run along the wetland line and shall extend north past wetland flag 7. And construction sequence shall begin, I'm sorry, I don't even know where I was going with that one. Did I hit them all?
Just a couple clarification points. On the stockade fence, you're extending that southerly
Southern.
rather than to the north. And
Oh, sorry.
with the commencement schedule, you said the replication area be done prior to construction, but we should specify that that be done prior to the commencement of construction of the addition.
Of the addition.
There's all kinds of construction going on here.
I get you.
Yep.
Do I have a motion for Marco's recommendations and/or any other conditions?
Did we talk about having that staked prior to the two corners of the building, the proposed addition? Just so we know how close is.
Can you
When
state
Marco
that
goes out
for
to
me?
inspect the erosion
For Marco?
controls 48 hours ahead of time, then we'll know what we're dealing with.
Yeah, so if you could stake out that left back corner of the house,
Yeah.
okay, and I'll just take a peek at it. But that's prior to construction, 48 hours prior to construction, I would like.
Oh, so not.
Well, you do it as soon as possible.
Oh,
let's just
yeah,
say.
and show you to,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so let's just say that, well,
in the next week or so.
Well, if you're not constructing until the spring, I would suggest you look at it just prior to construction.
Okay.
Looking at it now isn't
You can, but it may change
right.
potentially.
Yes,
I get you.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for 35 Day Street, map 577, lot 27A, with the conditions that our agent mentioned, along with my amendments to those.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor? Opposed and abstained?
Abstain.
Thank you. You're all set. I would highly recommend staying in close contact with Marco along the way, so you don't financially get yourself in trouble.
Yep, no, that's cool.
Because the sooner we know, and if you need to come in front of us for an amendment or a minor
I
change,
hope never ever to
It'll-
step foot in that door again.
Well, we're here to, obviously, to follow the Wetlands Protection Act, but we don't want to see you get in trouble as well as residents and homeowners here in town.
Yeah, I
so.
mean, they're just trying to start their life,
Yeah,
that's all. they're trying to-
Marco's here, so if you have any questions or comments saying, hey, this isn't gonna work, sooner the better, and we're definitely here not to be against you, we're here to definitely help you out.
But I can start going to get my building permit, the drawings, building permit, to get it okayed.
Yep,
And
that's
then,
correct.
right, and
Yeah.
as long as I'm good, and then in the spring, do the plantings or whatever, and meet you that date.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
But if, I mean, if, in the meantime, if you find something between now and construction, you know, sooner you come in front of us saying, hey, this isn't gonna work as we thought, or it is.
Okay.
The worst thing is to go and do it, and then if you're in violation of it,
Backfire, yeah,
it's gonna cost some money, we don't wanna see that,
okay.
you know? So we're here to help you in any way, and Marco's a great resource for that.
That's right, yeah, no, he's been great so far.
So we appreciate your patience,
All right,
we thank you.
thank you, have a good night.
Guys.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to our regular meeting. Certificates of compliance,
None?
extension permits,
None.
communications,
None.
minutes. I haven't seen any.
Emailed some off to you guys last week. I did not email September 12th minutes. That's what I did not email to you. Did everybody else get the minutes?
I got them.
I got them.
I did not. Which email are you sending them to?
I don't know. I think I sent them. I
I'm
don't know,
still
I'll have to
having
check on
issues with my,
them. I think I BCC'd everyone on it, so I can't go back and see it.
okay.
Um,
Because I don't remember seeing them, I'm usually pretty good at.
Okay. Well, just can I jump in here one
Sure.
second? You weren't at the last meeting. We have the ones from the last meeting, right?
I would like, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
those-
October
you can-
24th meeting minutes.
it's,
I'll get into why I want that.
right. Well, I already know why. So has,
Okay.
has the rest of the commission
Yeah,
reviewed those?
24th. I have.
Are we okay to vote on those tonight?
I was good with those.
So I would make a motion that we, what's the date on that again, Mark? That's the 24th. Make a motion that we issue the minutes for the October 24th, 2017 meeting.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstain, I'll abstain. Very
Good.
good.
Very good.
The other ones we'll have to hold off because I have not read them.
26, I was absent for, so I can't vote on that anyways. And you haven't done the 12th yet.
I have them.
Okay.
Which, September 12th?
Correct, yeah.
So,
This was technically our third meeting.
okay.
I was counting.
Any new business?
No.
Old business, 767 Willard Street.
Still tabled. I'm waiting to hear from the mayor's office or the property owner about that as far as how they want to proceed.
Okay. Minusmont Brook, DPW issue.
Yep, so this is, as you all know, an issue with a collapsed wall, and currently working with DPW on a fix for that. They have sought the help of a consulting service or consultant. And from my understanding, DPW did receive a basically scope of, or proposal per se, for the work, or what would entail for this to become, to start in stages for the wall repair essentially. They do have to come up with some money to essentially make this final and get this written, to enact this proposal.
Okay.
So that's that's the email I received this morning, and I wasn't able to allude on that any further with DPW.
But at least we're going in the right direction.
They are headed in the right direction, but now it seems to be coming up with the funds.
Funds to actually move forward,
Move
phase
forward
one,
with the proposal.
or whatever.
Can you forward that email to us?
Yes, I can do that. Well, it was a call that I received. I sent an email out, I received a call back, so I don't have an email to send you.
Okay. Enforcements, 375 Harvard Street, DP 199781.
We met out on site with some available members. Was that Thursday last week?
Thursday.
Thursday morning at 8 o'clock. And basically reviewed the site conditions up there. And it was discussed about filing notice of intent. The property owner would like to conduct some sewage work back there. And at that time, they would be supplying us with a restoration plan, essentially. for what they went above and beyond. So the discussion was that they would be filing that within the next few months. There's notice of intent to us.
2 months, I thought it was.
2 months.
What, I guess my question is, what sewer work are we talking about?
Well, the original order of conditions that was approved was for the abandonment of 2 septic systems up there,
Okay,
and for the extension of a sewer line for them to connect into that building.
okay.
So that's the extent of the sewer line.
That hasn't been done,
That has not been
so the septic systems are still operational.
operational.
Okay. All right. Can we talk about the site walk? What, people that were on there, what they thought, because unfortunately I did not
Yeah,
have a chance to make
It was
it.
cold.
I mean, thoughts on what the site looked like?
Well, I mean, they've got some housekeeping issues, that's for certain. So
Okay.
that's gonna have to be part of their plan. And there's fill that's in wetland areas.
Which we knew.
Which we knew, and then there's concern about what that fill material is. So we'll probably want some investigation on that end at some point, I would think, once they file.
We were told it had some solid waste in it, blocks, some
I saw solid waste the time I went down there, that was a year and a half
concrete
ago.
blocks and whatnot. Okay.
And did the health department ever get involved with that?
The health department did go out there with me to review it. His
Did
concern.
they ever order anything, or?
No, they did not order anything. He felt that it was below, well, the size of the material was small enough. However,
But it's imported onto the site.
it would be assumed that it was imported onto the site.
Well, there's not much of an assumption either. They can point to where the demo was, that material ended up there, which they would need a demo permit from the building commissioner for, so.
So I could touch base with the Board of Health again, but at the time that this was brought up, did not pursue it.
Okay. I'm not in favor of pushing the Board of Health, and I was just curious if they had ever issued anything.
Yeah, they did not have concerns with things.
Okay.
Well, it's just because they did fill in wetlands, what did they fill in with is the question.
Yeah.
And concrete blocks, I guess, is one thing, but, all right.
There's some erosion up there as well, and the erosion control is
Reached,
not working reached,
okay.
so how that goes.
All right, so 2 months?
That's what I'm
They're gonna
told.
issue us, and that's gonna be for septic or sewer work and
For the new proposed work and for the
Replication. not
restoration.
restoration, that's the word. Okay.
They need some type of O&M plan for the site. There's some landscape and other activities going on there. Maybe they have piles of different earth materials, concrete type materials, and it's just, you can see where stuff is gonna wash right down into the catch basin that's there. And
Yeah, especially if
levels,
it's,
so.
old used concrete, that's very, that could be contaminated material, so. Okay.
Did they say that there was a septic tank that they weren't sure exactly where it is at the time? Because I thought they said there was a second one where they had a general idea where it was, because they're gonna need to get a permit from the Board of Health to abandon that.
We witnessed the
Covers
manholes.
for
We
both.
saw the covers, yeah.
Saw the covers for both. I
So
don't
they
know
are
about
out.
the
Yeah,
leach
they know.
field, but
Oh, it's just the leach field, they weren't sure?
maybe that's what.
I thought I remembered there being something that they couldn't identify on.
They couldn't identify the leach field.
Oh,
I
okay.
believe.
The plan that was submitted, the tanks are reversed. There's one that's a 10,000 and one that's a 1,000.
Yeah.
The way they're drawn on the plan is backwards.
Oh, okay.
The 10's where the 1 is and 1's where the 10 is. I don't know about the leach fields.
Yeah, he couldn't even show us on site where they were. He thought it went out into that proposed detention basin area,
I think they're in the fill right now.
They probably are.
Yes.
but we don't know. So,
Okay.
an abandonment of the structure just is for the tank itself. I don't think the
Right,
leach
yeah,
field,
it's just the tank.
just the tank. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that'll certainly have to be incorporated in that notice of intent.
Okay. 258 Exchange Street.
We gave them to November 17th to come up with a plan for this violation. The property owner is working with a wetland consultant to come up with this plan. So I think it would behoove us to follow the
Today's
enforcement
the
order.
14th?
Yeah.
Okay,
So the 17th is when the enforcement order states.
okay.
I think at the time, we had planned for November meeting to be November 28th or something like that. And we had an issue with quorum, so we moved it to the 14th today.
Okay,
So that's where we were trying to stage it, that we would receive it before our last November hearing.
okay.
And that wasn't the case.
So, but you're in contact with them?
I'm in contact with, I actually pulled the certified abutters list for that property, because they have intent to file a notice of intent for it.
Okay,
So let's see what they come up with on the
Yeah.
17th and pursue from there. I don't know what they're proposing at this time though.
okay. I'm happy with that. 723 Willard Street.
So the reason why we need to get the October 24th minutes approved tonight is so that I can supply those to the attorney for the city. And in those minutes, we described the deadline that we want this encroachment removed by.
Okay,
And off the top of my head, I don't remember what date that was, but it was sometime in May. So with that explicitly detailed in the minutes, he will have a good base to write his letter to them with our requests. That's how they wanted to follow it in the past, but we missed that kind of deadline.
okay. Can you state that again? The removal of the encroachment, so basically
The removal of the entirety of whatever has been encroached.
encroached on by the May date that was
Correct.
discussed at the last meeting.
That's right. And restoration of that.
And restoration of that back to,
Natural.
okay. May of 2018, whatever the
It
date
was
was.
May 2018, so.
Okay,
So we were pretty explicit with what we requested.
okay, perfect. And that's gonna go out as soon as you get these minutes to the city solicitor.
That is correct. So that'll be, I'll email them tomorrow with them.
Okay,
The date was May 15th, 2018.
Okay, thank you.
May 15th, 2018, okay.
So that's what I have for 723 Willard Street.
Okay. 1145 Central Street, lot paving within a riverfront.
So this is an enforcement that I had issued because the property owner had paved in an extra 1,000 square feet of impervious surface essentially at that property.
Where is this property?
It's at the corner of Central and Grant.
Okay,
There's like a daycare, it's near that Dippin' Donuts or something like that. So there is an extra 1,000 square feet of impervious surface that was basically placed right upon this riverfront area, perennial stream.
okay,
So I gave him a deadline of November 1st to submit a notice of intent. And I wrote him a letter detailing all those requirements and with the ratified enforcement order. And I have a refusal on this certified mailing. I sent it to, I confirmed his address on the Lunenburg GIS site and all that stuff, so. I guess I'm asking where I should go from here. I just got this back yesterday.
I drive by that site every single day, and it's paved so close to the stream that if any of the snow goes beyond the pavement, it's in the brook.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if the building is being used, I mean, it looks like there's vehicles there, there's been things delivered on site. I mean, can we work with any of the other departments to?
As far as vehicles on site and the sale of vehicles on site, I noticed there was a vehicle with a price tag on it, I guess you could say. That would be enforced by the building commissioner.
Right, but if we tell them that there's serious violations, maybe they can, I don't know,
Yeah, I don't know what we can influence the building department to do or not do.
Yeah.
I guess you could say.
I mean, it doesn't seem like, is it actively, like, is it the same owner, like, has it been actively used?
No,
or
this
they
was a new
changed?
owner that purchased the property.
So, I mean, do they have to get licenses to sell
In
cars?
order
They
to
have
sell, in order to have more than, you can only, in the city, you can only have one unregistered vehicle.
So can we notify whoever would be in charge of licensing that there's,
Yes.
so that it would trigger some sort
And
of,
I already have notified.
okay,
Like the
Yeah.
code enforcement officer. I guess you could say.
yeah.
My suggestion is to contact the section chief in Worcester, who has a lot of experience with notice delivery,
Okay.
and just find out the opinion there.
All right. Recommend I call her, or?
Yeah, I would give her a call. I mean, it's out of the city, so I don't want to be out there hand delivering it. But there's other options to meet the legal requirements, and off the top of my head, I don't know what that is, but
Okay.
she'll tell you.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
I know we had a tenant once, we had to just get a constable. And you pay them a fee and they hunt them down. So they do the legwork for you.
I think he might be in Florida, but he might be crossing state lines, but
Oh,
we can certainly track him down.
Where's the address, Lunenburg?
It's in Leominster. So yeah, that's what I got going on with that one. So I kind of assumed this was going to happen at the time. Got a lot of lip service. So that's what we got going on
Keep us in the
there.
loop on that one.
Will do.
35 Berkshire Drive, wetland fill.
Yeah, about a month ago, I received a complaint about some fill going in a wetland. So I contacted the property owner. He's been very cooperative with us for this enforcement order. So he's been a real pleasure to work with so far. So what we requested was basically a restoration plan from a wetland consultant regarding that fill and the removal of that fill. We gave them to November 15th to supply us with that. And they supplied it to us today, which is great. So upon reviewing it, I think their plan is pretty sound. The property owner would like to conduct the earthwork as soon as possible and within 1 day. So he's currently seeking some people that can do that or have the capacity to do that. So it's going to involve large dump trucks and such. So if you'd like to review that, we gave them to the end of November to remove.
So you received it today, you gave until the end of November 30th to remove it.
Now, what's
this letter?
what's that? What's the nature of the material that was imported in?
It's fill, essentially. It's, I didn't see any really solid waste in it. Maybe like a one brick.
It's filled from another site though, right?
I believe so, yeah. Definitely from another site.
Just a rocky fill, sandy.
So it's requested, and I believe the property owner agreed that it would be removed from the site, disposed of correctly. It won't be placed anywhere else on the site.
And you feel it can be done without any more disturbance?
Yeah, they have an erosion control line maintained currently right now. It's installed nicely. But yeah, I think as long as they keep inching back as they remove it, I don't think that'll be a huge issue. And the fill is so recent that any vegetation will spring right back in the growing season. So I think we have the root structure there. As long as they don't go too deep, I think it'll be okay. But the wetland consultant will have to be on site during that removal process.
Okay.
And that's
I guess that was-
explicitly stated.
That was my question, is someone should be checking. Okay.
So I'll be going out there, but again, the enforcement order required that the consultant be present during that removal.
Okay.
Now, he states on this letter that he doesn't need to be present continuously,
So,
but will need to inspect critical stages of the work.
so that's up to the commission if they would allow that.
I don't have an issue with that. I mean, if he has other jobs in the immediate area that day and can check back and forth.
I don't think he wants to commit to being there for.
Right, I mean, that's,
Yeah. I mean,
Which is
someone
understandable.
could be hours doing something else around the site other than actually in the wetland, so. I mean, he's ultimately responsible for this,
what's
overseeing it, so if something does go,
what's there for erosion control now?
Straw wattles, the big ones, so what, 12 inch or something, the biggest ones, I forget the size, and silt fence.
And silt fence, okay. And that would just, once they pull that out, that would just be immediately relocated?
That's correct.
Did I miss that part, or?
I think he states in that letter. That there is erosion control on site, but I don't know if he states what you're saying is.
Install additional line of entrenched silt fence along the toe of the slope and up each side of the disturbed area, but I'm not clear as to whether or not that's. I'd like to see them just start it. And, yeah. If they're gonna have Mr. Karen out there, and if they're gonna be checking on it, and I feel comfortable that, yeah, it can just get removed and restored. I mean, I'm glad they're acting on it, that's great.
Yeah, it is great, so it's kind of not the norm around here these days, so nice to see.
all right. Keep us posted.
Yep.
Emergency certs,
None at this time.
anybody want any project updates of open NOIs? Yes, sir?
Yes, Pierce Street. We had talked about it at the last hearing, but if we could just get if you could take a look and make sure that they have that construction pad set up and that there's.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And that there's no, runoff. I mean, there were discussions about material going into a resource area.
Sure.
If you can just take a look and see if that's actually happening.
I'll certainly do that.
We did have some substantial rains, so, but if that did happen, we need to, that needs to be addressed by,
I agree.
the property owner, so at least.
I'll definitely take a peek at that,
Right.
address any concerns.
Any other project updates from anybody? All right, budget,
I don't have a figure for you guys.
okay.
Everything's lining up, but I could do an updated spreadsheet for you all.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Agents report,
None.
I do not have a chairman's report. Our next meeting is December 12th, 2017, with a deadline of November 30th, 2017. Is there anything else anybody would like to discuss? Seeing no anything, this meeting is adjourned.